Thanks for those of you who are here, and for those of you watching later. Plan today is to do a couple of replay reviews of the startup tournament. I unfortunately don't have all of the replay reviews I wanted to have, but figure it's worth going through the ones I've got. So this was the Metropole Grid startup tournament, and I didn't play in this event, but the king needed an oracle, someone to help because he has a visual impairment that prevents him from being able to operate JNUT entirely on his own, so he had me act as his hands, basically. So I have the replay for these games, at least when the replay was saved, and I actually also have the replay for the final game, so I figured I would go through those replays with a little bit of intentionality, because replay reviews are a thing I definitely started doing, and I think are one of the most valuable things you can do, and something I've been doing a lot less. And so they're something I'd like to get back to doing. So yeah, I'm going to review these all from the perspective of the king. So I'm going to pretend that we can't see the corpse hand. I'll probably leave it up there so that we can reference it on occasion. But yeah, I'm going to try and go through and talk about why decisions were made and where I would maybe make the decisions a little bit differently. So yeah. So this is against Reality Plus, I think a pretty reasonable hand. It can get a bit dicey. If both centrals get iced, Dirty Laundry for no value is not great. But Pinhole Threading is just a really good card for a lot of weird tricks, and particularly if you're expecting some kind of Drago Ivanov deck. It's a nice little plan. And then Imp is actually a pretty nice econ card. It basically comes down for free and draws you 2 cards, and then does disruptive stuff as well, which is nice. Leech is pretty meh, but you know, it is what it is. So I think this is a pretty reasonable keep. Raindrops Cut Stone I think is actually a card I'm coming to like more and more. I don't think it's wildly powerful, but it probably is going to deserve a slot in most decks, especially when the Bin Breakers go. Assuming we don't get more support for something like the Bin Breakers, it might be better than moshing in some for a lot of stuff. Hey, Anarcho. Yeah, this is start because I've got replay reviews of Brandon, and I think they're really interesting to talk about because he's a really good player, and I would have played a bunch of turns really differently, and so I think it's worth thinking about why. And also because I gotta attract the viewers somehow, right? No, but in all seriousness, the part of the reason I'm doing this is I'm a little like I've just been super tired the last couple of nights. And I don't know exactly why, and then I've been spending a bunch of energy getting Aesop's Tables 2.0 up and running. Also a huge shout out to Izzy, who, after I mentioned it on stream that I was going to have to learn CSS, went and put all the CSS in for me. So that is super close. I'm now, like, honestly, I think the only thing I'm waiting on right now is fully implementing cuts. But I think I otherwise have, I think, all the features I want. Maybe not all of them working exactly correct, but I'm really optimistic I'll be able to release it by this weekend. But anyway, this is a pretty nice first turn. I think Laundry HQ seems completely correct. Hey, it's me. Alright, so we're installing an Imp, which actually makes more sense. Laundry. So this is one of the things where, like, I disagree with Brandon's Brandon was running R&D a lot. And I think there's a good reason to run R&D, or like the justifiable reason to run R&D is if you can lock R&D for the whole game, right? The Corp has to have won in the Corp has to have basically won their opening hand, which very, very rarely happens. Now, I think in practice, the reason no one does this is there's just tons of counterplay, and so going after HQ is really valuable. And honestly, even though, like, we can see knowing a snare, oh, you know what? I should probably put the chat in, even though I didn't love it last time. We'll just hope that it's working better this time. Wow, it is on such a long delay, though. Holy moly, this is like minutes behind. But, oh well. I guess I'm doing this recording in theory so that I can put this up on my channel as independent content. I don't think I will, but you know. Man, why is this chat so bad? I wonder, you know what? I should have fixed this another time. I'm gonna not do the chat. What I should probably do is just grab the Twitch chat URL, because that will still grab the Restream bot anyway. Well, I'm glad there's so many single-sided Swiss supporters in the chat. I'm absolutely shocked you showed up in my chat of all of the chats you could show up in, but great to see everyone around. But yeah, this is like one of the things where, like, I still actually think, even knowing that I have a 1 in 3 to hit a snare here, I think I'd still rather run HQ. I don't think it's a huge, like, EV loss, but I think it gives you a lot more information, like hitting a seamless launch, hitting on retribution, hitting an agenda in hand, hitting a piece of ice in hand. Like, the way I always think about it is, like, if I steal a card or trash a card off the top of R&D, I haven't actually denied my opponent any particular thing, because the card I trashed could have been on the bottom of their deck instead. So it's pretty rare for the R&D trash to be particularly impactful. Now, this game, it's going to come up that it's actually super impactful, and Brandon hits a ping every single time he imps here on R&D. Which is pretty wild. But, you know, to some extent, I don't want to be too results-based. I think installing the leech is fine. I think you probably could overdraw past it, but it's, you know, it is what it is. And basically, like, things worked. This is, like, pretty much optimal where you didn't actually get a thing. And actually, this is the sort of board state, I think, where Raindrops Cut Stone is at its best, because you can just Raindrops Cut Stone server 1 here, and it's really hard for the corp to do anything that meaningfully stops you. I believe that is exactly what's done, and so, like, this is actually maybe the one piece of ice, Funhouse, that kind of ruined Raindrops Cut Stone, because you don't actually get the subroutine to fire because you end the run on the encounter effect. And so it's actually just a click to run to gain 2 credits, though the corp did siphon 4 from themselves, so that was pretty good. And then you draw the Buzzsaw off the top of the deck because you draw really well, and you're pretty happy. And now you can run HQ, you see the Retribution, and you install the Fermenter. Like, hopefully these plays are pretty obvious. You want to try and get your value econ cards over time down as quickly as possible, obviously. Now we're pretty, you know, that just is the Earthrise Hotel. I saw some people in the startup event running Verbal Plasticity, and I don't think you ever really should. I think you should be running Earthrise Hotel, Dr. Nuka. Maybe if you're criminal, you want to play Earthrise Hotel and Verbal Plasticity. But I think honestly you're probably better splashing diesels. Because Verbal Plasticity costs only 1 less than Earthrise Hotel and takes many, many more payoff. But we're seeing the power of Earthrise Hotel. It's just keeping the deck running very smoothly. Moving the tag, the corp is low on econ, so you can pressure their credits. And then last click is draw a card here. Again, this is a scenario where I actually think running HQ would probably be pretty reasonable. We only know 1 of the cards in HQ at this point in time, so it's not like it's completely, you know, drawing is fine too, but I like to go for these sorts of aggressive pokes when I can, just to get more of a sense of what's going on. Deck's just printing money. Buzzsaw Leech means that we'll be able to get through the Funhouse when we want to at some point. Pinhole to Trash a Maze opens up a lot of lines on the server, and the no free lunch, like, you don't actually have to install the no free lunch. You can just run and clear the tag instead, but installing the no free lunch, fine too, right? When you overdrew, it's pretty solid. And this is again why, like, oh hey, you know what? If we knew some more information about it, HQ, I probably wouldn't mind that over the R&D stuff. Spin Doctor gets res, Pinhole throwing whiffs, which is fine. Laundry HQ, see a Retribution again, and they're just drawing back up. Like, I guess I'm not going in detail about the game plan here, but basically this runner game plan is following the Reg Anarch game plan of just, I want to get the maximum value out of every turn. So we're just trying to take good, cheap accesses where possible and not end up in a board state where we get locked out. That's basically the goal of the deck. It's not looking to go for big digs. It's not trying to do flashy things. Like, Imp is a fun little disruptive piece, but it's not like a pillar of the deck. The pillar of the deck is we're a 40 card deck that can run 2 copies of Endurance, maybe even 3. I think it's only 2 though. And so it's like, yeah, if the opponent's going to spend a turn purging, we will spend a turn pseudo purging. We'll just click our Liberated up, and now we've got all the money you could want. We've got draw cards in our hand, and it's very hard to do anything too scary. No leech counters suggest that maybe an archived run first would have been better. Hey, it's me. So Reg Anarch is, yeah, so it is Reg, R-E-G, for regular. The idea is that Reg Anarch is this archetype of cards that just say, I'm going to get all of the best cards, like the cards that are just most efficient individually, and put them in a deck together. Which has been like a super strong archetype for quite a while on Netrunner. And whenever I finally get around to recording it, I have a whole video essay I want to do about it, and like why I hope that the designers move away from printing powerful cards for Reg Anarch. But yeah, the basic idea is you use very efficient breakers, you use very efficient individual cards, and you basically have no cards that need another card to become good. You can have some synergies, like obviously Leech, which lowers the strength of ice, is good with Buzzsaw, which is very expensive to boost, but Buzzsaw basically works on its own. Leech doesn't work on its own, so it's like a slight combo card. But when we look at every other card that's in this deck, this is econ regardless of, this is generating credits regardless of what you're doing. Same with this. Like every one of these cards is not part of it's not part of a plan where it's like, okay, this card doesn't do much on its own, but when I get this card into play, suddenly it explodes in power, and then when I get this other card into play, the whole combination lets me do something that I can't normally do. All of these cards let you do stuff that you could normally do, or that you could replace with another card. Like instead of running Buzzsaw, we could run Unity, and nothing about this deck would actually have to change. I wouldn't not include a different card because I was trying to run a different decoder. Now in startup, you know, I may have very limited options. Like you could actually run a card that I think no one has ever played. Let me go see if I can pull it up. Hold on. I'm trying to remember its name now as well. It's the decoder that's currently legal in startup for Anarch that's from the new set. Shoot, I did the wrong thing. And okay, what is its name? It's Bassy, thank you. Let me pull that up. So like, this is sort of one of the, and actually a huge shout out to Baran Wu who commented in one of my streams from a previous week. Like if you swapped out Buzzsaw for a Bassy, the deck wouldn't actually have to change anything else in its deck. Like Leech would still be good on its own, and you wouldn't change anything else, and you would just change your efficiency. So instead of being really efficient at breaking low strength code gates, you like to see low strength code gates because it gives you card draw, but it costs you more to break them. And so like you lose some efficiency, but maybe you gain some efficiency. Like these two cards are functionally interchangeable for this deck. You just pick whichever one is best for the particular meta. What's a like counter example? You could look at something like, honestly, something like Sable with Deep Dive, where they are an inherent synergy with each other. And so you're not going to play like Deep Dive Steve to the same level of success and you can't just swap out the Deep Dive for Awaken Plant. Functionally, they're like doing different things in a way that's pretty dramatic. And you know, if you go back further in time, there's other stuff. There's like a big archetype was oops. Oh, shoot. Okay, was Geist. So this was a criminal ability, and this said whenever you use a trash can ability, which I don't have any, actually I guess Fermenters would be a trash can ability here, you would be able to trash when, you know, you would get to draw a card. And so you got to include a bunch of cards in your deck that otherwise weren't that good, but because they had a trash can on them, suddenly they became better. And so there was a synergy in your deck where cards became much better, not because of their independent value, but because of their codependent combination value. And I think like the Netrunner meta has been dominated by decks that just play the most efficient cards. And it's interesting because, you know, people who've been playing Netrunner for a long time are saying, also just go rewind. I'll rewind this turn because it's actually a pretty important turn. like, oh, that's just always how a game like Netrunner is going to go. And I don't know that that's always true. You know, people are like, oh, board games always, or card games always tends towards the best stuff. And they're like, oh yeah, that just means the cards that are most over curve. But I don't think that's actually true. I think card games tend towards the best stuff. That often ends up being synergistic combos. Because generally a single card is not so over the curve. And Netrunner functions in a couple of unique ways that mean that being generically good at everything is a little bit stronger in Netrunner than it is in other card games. But then also the power of generic economy cards, generic card draw, has kind of crept past the level. Like, when you print combo cards that are stronger than the level of the current generic value cards, people complain, and so the combo cards get taken out and the regular cards got crept up in power to meet old power level of combos. And so now and then people complain about the combos because they're uninteractive in a particular way, and so you're just left with this absolute dominance of cards that are just trying to play the most efficient thing on every turn. And that's the judger of skill, and that's the judger of good decks, and that's what it is. And I'm a combo player, and it's a little bit sad to me that like I have to get really, really good at grinding value Netrunner, and can't play a lot of combo right now. And the closest you get to building combos is becoming a corp grinder deck, where you're not looking to win really at any point quickly. You're looking to exhaust the other player resources and then start winning the game, which I think has a whole different approach. Anyway, that was a super long rant about what the definition of Reg Anarch is. I have legs. Okay. Okay, so this turn I think is pretty interesting. Is value ob still combo in these definitions? I think op does become closer to combo. Yeah, I think, because it's like, yeah, extract is not a generically good card. Op is not a generically good card. There's like some exact dependency on the ID. Now maybe op with just border controls is like right on a borderline. But I suspect op with just border controls is probably better off being something like outfit. And it's like, yeah, outfit and op are like, you can toe the line of being much like fairer, straight up, just we're trying to play the most efficient cards, and it just so happens that this is the highest synergistically. What was I thinking? So like, there's definitely some sliding scale here, and like, there was a lot of Geist decks that played like criminal decks, but then included a couple of extra trash can cards, right? So the underlying complaint is kind of, honestly, Anarch Econ cards are just pushed to all hell, and like you have to ban a bunch of them because there's so many follower like replacement level cards, and that just brings Anarch down, and like people don't want to do that. Yeah, synergy is maybe a more fitting term, simply the onion. I think when people talk about combo in Netrunner or combo in card games, they're often being like, I can do a bunch of things all in one go before my opponent, and my opponent has no ability to interact, or if they don't stop me on the moment of getting the last thing, that I win the game, or like gain a huge amount of progress in the game. And so yeah, I am talking more about synergistic deck building, and there's not actually there's no synergies where two cards don't work with it. Like, you just don't have to build your runner decks right now to be synergistic. You just build them to be good, which is slightly different, and I think maybe sometimes a little disappointing. But anyways, I think this turn's really interesting, because sort of the threat is that there's something in the remote, and so there's a lot of ways to sequence this. With 11 credits plus another one in the liberated, just charging server 1 I think is fine here. I would be really tempted to run archives because you're basically clicking for 3 credits there, which is maybe, while not technically as good as Liberated, pretty darn close. What we end up seeing is this is a fun house, and like this is a thing that really good players do a lot, which is you track your opponent's credit total. And Coder just went to 1 credit. Even if this is an agenda, it's very difficult for it to be an agenda. It would have to be something like seamless launch, click for a credit, advance. You're probably coming out ahead as the runner by letting this one through, and so it's better to end the run here. Then we can check server 2. It's going to be a spin doctor. That's how this kind of card is played, though sometimes people can shark that a little bit. And so now is a great time to run HQ, try and figure out what resources and tricks the Corp is going to have available. And we see a snare, which is fantastic for the Lou ID because we can trash the snare, draw a card, gain a credit. Yeah, so Leon, I think that's a very good definition. Combo is I combine these cards to create a tempo spike that effectively or actually wins the game. Synergy is I combine these cards together, they generate more tempo over time, which allows me to feed these cards into the system and snowball my way to the win this way. Yeah, that's a really good... Yeah, combo is my cards do nothing, or they do very little, and then they spike up and try and win on that spike. And then synergy is my cards are below average, but when I combine them, they slowly get to or exceed the value of what you can get from playing individual cards. And basically, my thesis is that synergy hasn't existed, and like I actually like this video. I'm like, so what do I make my positive thesis in this video? And it's that sabotage is good, not because it's a strong mechanic, but because it is a synergistic package. And I think that is a really cool path design, and I kind of hope we see more sabotage, though. And I think the sabotage cards I dislike the most are Augustina. Was there a second one in there, or is it just Augustina? Because basically every other sabotage ID feels to me like it does. It pushes interaction and pushes synergy, and like you could be like, oh, what about the self-damage SLS? And I don't think you can win off of 6 sabotages. So, or even like even if you manage to do 9 core damage to yourself, it's just very difficult for that to actually make any realistic wins. But anyway, so let's see. Yeah, this is runner's turn. They go and blow things up. Corp just clicks, and so it's time to just keep the pressure on, because this remote is actually really annoying to get into. So this is a turn where it's really important to make sure that HQ and the top of R&D are as clear as possible. Now, Encoder does, I think, actually a pretty smart thing, which is just say, hey, this ice is really good here. There's no sentries on the board. I can spend 4 and get a lot of value out of this res. Going down to 2 credits is rough. 2 Steelskin Scarrings get hit, which kind of flips the whole tempo of this card, but it is what it is. And I think Cody chooses not to draw here. I'm not sure I like that unless he's running exactly 0 predictive planograms. If he's running no predictive planograms, then totally reasonable. But just he elects not to, which I think is a bit of a mistake. Because he's behind in tempo, and yes, he'll have to dump some cards, but like these cards aren't doing anything for him. He's never rezzing this funhouse. He's never probably rezzing this. He's never installing and rezzing this magnet. So you should always draw your cards here to try and find outs, I think. And yeah, Corp just kind of has to click for credits. I forget what he does. Oh, right, he gives a tag here, which is a little bit weird to me. Because I'm not sure what it actually does. Oh, I have to do... Hold on. I'm going to do this so that we're back on the right sides. Because it's just like, oh, runner's going to click to clear a tag, make a run on R&D, steal a Beal, and it's just like, okay, I'll just lock R&D here. I actually think you should probably just run again here on R&D. I don't think there's actually any reason to do much else. If the Corp wants to gain 1 credit and give you another tag, I think you're fine. And we would in fact have won the game, but that's very much backstating. Simply, I think that's a good point that there's no actual synergies with Sabotage. Sabotage is a self-synergistic only mechanic. I think I think it would be, that might be the fun way to support Sabotage in future sets, where you just say, hey, the first time you turn, you sabotage X, gain X credits. Or, you know, when you sabotage the Corp, you know, when you sabotage 4, you may place a card from archives or from your heap onto the bottom of the stack or something. I could even see some cards that be like, instead of sabotaging, the Corp may instead choose cards and recur them or something. But I think probably my guess is part of the intent of Sabotage was that it should be a little bit narrow and a little bit inefficient, and so the challenge of building a Sabotage deck is how do you weave in the other elements of the game that you need to fit. But honestly, there's like a ton of ways that you can support Sabotage without actually supporting Sabotage. Like, the Corp cannot trash cards from HQ this turn. Like, could be, or the Corp must trash cards from HQ this turn if able. Could be a cool effect that you could print that doesn't say Sabotage on it, but would be a way to support Sabotage if NSG is worried about making cards that are relevant in startup. Yeah, just when the Corp discards a card, or I think Sabotage is actually the Corp trashes a card. Would be the trigger you want. But it would be totally a reasonable way to do it. And yeah, so okay, yeah. Now we see the planogram, and I really feel like Cody could have drawn this and been in a good spot. But yeah, pinhole threading, rough for our friend Drago here. What is this install? Is this the snare? I guess. Oh, I can't see because I'm the runner here. There's no actual threat to win, so I don't even know that you need to make this run, and the Funhouse definitely says you don't have to. And then it's just like, yeah, now we're just singling on R&D, because if the win was in hand, it would have been moved around a bit, I think. Okay, so this was I acted too fast. King said, let's run the remote. Oh, wait. And I'd already clicked run. But basically, the point is there's no actual threat to win out of this server. And so you just check the top of R&D and keep building up your board, which is exactly what gets done here. Now that the card got overwritten, it's like, okay, that was probably a bluff and you couldn't go for it, but we don't even need to because the win. Hey Sophie, so I think it's fine or cool to have irrelevant cards in startup. Want to know why it's trying a different format? Try a new format. I mean, I agree, I completely agree, but I also know there's a lot of people that play startup that get frustrated that the format's not, like, has a lot of concessions to formats that they don't play. So I don't know. I have some pretty hot takes when it comes to startup. But yeah, it's something to think about, right? And I don't know what the designers are thinking about. So it's tricky. I would love to see more people doing standard, and I should probably update my startup to standard video. and maybe after this accelerated meta test, I'll have 2 tournaments worth of data to work off of, so I can put that video together a little more quickly. But anyway, what's the point of this whole replay review that I just did while getting completely sidetracked? I think this is actually just an example of like what peak performance Netrunner looks like. I don't actually think there's a ton of like super pivotal decisions that I would do differently or anything. It's like the whole point of this runner deck is to just do things efficiently, like move through the game efficiently as possible. For those of you who didn't see, Andre put out a great video today about agenda density calculations. You're looking to get your 17 to 18 accesses, and you're looking to do it as cheaply as possible, because you can probably lock down the scoring remote to make it very difficult for the corp to score out of a couple of times, and so then that's some number of accesses, and then the rest of what you have to do is just move forward and grab the singles where you can get them. And so this is just really play. I honestly don't think either player made any significant mistakes. I think rezzing this funhouse was maybe questionable, though I don't remember if this ends up being an agenda in server 1. Yeah, with this being a Drago in server 1, I think rezzing this funhouse is maybe a little questionable. But it is what it is. Like there's definitely small mistakes made here and there by encoder, but honestly, I think corps are a little bit of a dog in the startup format, so like it's really hard to do things too tightly here, or be too critical. There was stuff like, hey, you should try and soak every ounce of value you can, and if you're going to pay 4 to res a piece of ice, even though you end up only resing it for 2, you should try and capture every single ounce of value out of this. And then as the runner, just like make advantage runs for you when the corp is low on credits, and keep things going. Anyway, let's go and grab our next replay. Actually, I think, and I'll try to not get quite as sidetracked. So unfortunately, I can't find, this replay isn't loading, which is a bummer. I do have the final match. That's a run back in this matchup. So we've got the, oh yeah, okay. So we end up playing against Cody again, but now on the other side. And this is like, the way that Brandon plays PD is very different from the way I play PD. I play it much more aggressively, especially in a format where I think I'm pretty screwed. This is also the boldest call, which is I've got to send a message. Let's protect R&D and the remote. I think you have other options here. I love this plan, and like you have decent follow-ups. The tricky thing is like you can only actually like your whole plan is based around these 2 cards, and I guess to some extent you're just trying to throw off the trail a bit. And this send a message gets missed so many times, it completely changes the game. ASOS, we just did the very first game, and we're gonna do the finals next. Or no, we haven't missed any of your games yet. I don't know if you have them, but I have this game from you, and I was able to load that one earlier. I don't have this game, and I don't have this game. I know you told me the NEH game's completely missing. We might go through the logs and see what we can reconstruct from the logs, because I don't mind having an unwatchable stream. I'm here for me and my entertainment, and the fact that you guys are all here and also enjoy it is a big bonus. But yeah, if you have either of those replays, that would be sick. Let's see. Anyway, So yeah, this is like pretty, we get pretty lucky overall. So to me, it's you put an ice on HQ, and then you click for 2 credits, which is exactly what happens. That's true. It is a Brandon focused stream, so visual elements be damned, right? In true tradition. This is actually okay. Actually, no. One of the things that Brandon and I do very differently is play from low credits. Now, this res though is incredibly defensible. This roto turret, like normally 4 cost, 0 strength, and the run is really all you get out of this. But because there's a fermenter installed, this is an immensely good res. And so I have no problem, like, Encoder's going to do the good thing here, which is then say, oh, the corp is low on credits, let's poke HQ a little bit. Now, I think he gets unlucky and sees the Ansel a second time. Oh, no, he sees the Managarm and didn't have the money to trash it at the time. Now, I think there's a pretty reasonable argument to say that you should into the depths HQ again here to try and snipe the send a message, and then and grab 4 credits, or because you have creative commission, you could into the depths, grab the breaker you care about, and then creative commission last click. And I think that might be a way for this runner to play super aggressively and dominate this game. And I think this is like one of the peak uses of Into the Depths that you could play in the meta right now. Now with Boat or Endurance and Startup, you can do a lot more, but like just getting 1 trigger off of Into the Depths is pretty good, right? And this is a trigger that you can basically guarantee. So I think it's worth doing. I think Into the Depths creative commission is much stronger than draw here. Because this is effectively going to be drawing you a card and then getting you the credits, and then you're going to draw more and you're going to be able to deal with the board next turn. Because now this draw, I don't hate it. It just ends up being pretty unfortunate. You're drawing to try and find some econ pieces because you've seen no hedge funds yet. You don't find it. Instead, you find an agenda and you're pretty sad. So you have to click twice here and lock out. But the interesting thing, of course, now is that we can actually do the lockout. And so, like, we will if we have to. Okay, so this, to me, with 9 credits, I think it's slam the white space, slam the Managarm, slam the Vitruvius. That's a total of 5 credits, which gives us the 4 we need to res, which I'm pretty sure is exactly what gets done. Endurance comes down. Click to draw, and then laundry on archives. This info bounty I think is really interesting. I guess it's probably because there's not a lot of econ. I do wonder, honestly, if something like a red team is equally good. Because when this isn't clickless, I feel like it's got some challenges, but I'm not sure. Yeah, I mean, this is just how you play PD. You score and you return your seamlesses. Now we're seeing the Into the Depths play. Makes a ton of sense. We get the breaker. An Analytic Void gets trashed. And like, as the corp here, you're super sad. Because you're about to get completely wrecked. Now, fortunately, we have a lot of relevant ice that we can play with. Only 5 credits is a bit bad, but we also know that RNG is safe for a little bit. Okay. So what is... Okay, this is the Ansel. Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of my sense cold lava. Like, it's cheaper than, like, a red team, but it's only cheaper than red. Like, if you use red team the turn you install it, it's kind of the same cost, and you could even use red team multiple times. And I don't even know that red team's that good. Like, I'm just, you have so little control over info bounty. I'm pretty skeptical about it. Splashed out of faction. In faction, as we'll see in the last game, I think it's pretty solid. But I honestly wonder if you could just run a smartware distributor, right? It's going to be the same clicks and probably earn you the same amount of credits over the course of a game. So this is like a pretty risky play where you're stretched quite thin, but this is kind of how you have to play PD, I think. You just don't have a lot of money. This is a bit of a weird line to me. They know that this has to be a remote, this card, and they pinhole threading the Vitruvius. I don't know if this is a misclick, but if you pinhole the Managarm here with 4 boat counters, I think you just run with a click left. It feels like a bit of a mistake by encoder, which, you know, happens to everyone. Like, the conduit dig's not unreasonable, but it's just like you're not even making a ton of resources to get spent to defend this agenda, which is a bit of a bummer. Yeah, this, they think it was the Void, maybe? Maybe they thought it was the Void, though they'd already trashed 1. But it's weird to me because if it is a Void, trashing the Managarm that you know is there and then running and making the Corp with a 3-card hand size dump into a Void just to protect the Void and nothing else is still good for the runner. And you know, they then have to still invest in protecting R&D. So it's like, it's just such a much better winning line to just go after the card you know and try and get the card in server 1. Now, this turn I think is maybe the most interesting in the game, and I'm not sure. I definitely didn't think at the time that what Brandon did was wrong here, but I do feel like it might have been in retrospect. So the question here is, do we score this Vitruvius with 4 credits, or do we advance it so that we have 2 Vitruvius counters? And then if we do score this with 4 credits, do we pull back Hedge Fund, or do we pull back Seamless Launch? Because if we pull back the Hedge Fund, we don't actually get to play it this turn. We have to click for a credit, or I think install the Spin Doctor is also a reasonable line. Though we don't really want to protect the Managarm and whatever. I think there's actually a reasonable argument to be said, let's advance the Vitruvius again, because we don't need to res any cards. We've decided we're not resing HQ, and the runner's decided they're not running HQ. And to be frank, the runner probably doesn't need to run HQ because they've got R&D so heavily locked. The only way they lose if there was to send a message in HQ the whole time, and they've accessed 3 to 4 different cards that would and they just whiffed. So, like, to some extent, Cody got unlucky here, right? They missed the send a message, but we can play as the Corpus if they're confident there's no agendas in there. So I could see going down 3, because then you can go credit, Hedge Fund, and have 2 Vitruvius counters on your next turn. And then you can look to purge the turn after. Because your remote is still annoying for them to get through. And I think actually not going for the conduit dig here is a little bit strange to me. But, it, you know, it is what it is. I think this draw actually does make a ton of sense. Because our turn doesn't have a lot going for it, so drawing first, see if we can get something that's good. And then we're just going to install the send a message. And this turn, I think R&D finally starts just raining open. And the Anaerotic Void gets trashed. And with 3 counters, yeah, this is also something where I really wonder as, well, I guess you just have no money as Cody. I mean, we should actually maybe look at what this info bounty made, because my sense is not very much. Oh yeah, this res was wild to me. Hey, Andre. We're doing some replay reviews because I'm a little low on energy tonight. And we're reviewing the Brandon versus top cut of your GNK. This game was the wildest one because the send the message literally sat in hand from turn 1 to turn 7 before it got installed. and got missed 5 times or something like that. Often as a 3 card in hand. Like it just shouldn't have happened. It happens in like 1/3 or 1/5 of games. But then the wild thing here is like, oh, if you have the 2 Vitruvius counters, you can Vitruvius for a seamless, use it. Vitruvius for that same seamless, use it, advance and score. But instead, Brandon top decks a seamless and just wins the game. We both felt like he was completely lost because this remote is super punchable. Like, you just run archives, run this remote, and you're completely fine. But he top decks the win. Does Brandon say how he's feeling about the game during the game? A little bit. Mostly after the game, he and I was chatting. I was like, man, that game felt dead lost. And he's like, yep. So, yeah. This is, I think there was a couple of things that we noticed about Cody's play where I'm like, oh, we could have probably done X a little better or Y a little better. I think this PD does have some issues because the way that PD played classically in Standard when Endurance started being everywhere was by including next activation commands, which isn't an option to play in Startup. So the counterplay to Endurance sort of doesn't exist in the format, or one of the counterplays. I think we actually see here a pretty reasonable other set of counterplays, which is just you have small dinky ice that they have to spend counters on, and you also have large chunky ice that is like they have to spend their counters on as well. So it ends up like you just play a bunch of ice and make the runner keep respecting your threats, and they can't keep up with everything. Okay, so we watched this game. I don't have this replay, but you know what? Because we're doing a Brandon stream, we can do non-visual stuff as well. Okay. So, let's see. Neither player takes a mulligan, I think. Can we see? Oh no, Sauce takes a mulligan. Brandon keeps his hand. Near Earth Hub is just install 3 new remotes on turn 1. So they end their turn with 5 credits and 4 cards in HQ. Oh, this was the dirtiest. Oh no, this wasn't the dirtiest start, I think. But this was click 1, Sure Gamble. Click 2, Dirty Laundry. Accessing a Maryland campaign that wasn't rezzed. And then draw a card to install Earthrise. This is a pretty great turn. You end up +4 from Sure Gamble, +3 from Dirty Laundry, -3, +1 on a card. So you end up at 6 credits and 4 cards in grip, and you're going to draw for 2. Like, basically, you disrupted the court board a tiny bit, and you got your stuff. So you get Gaslight to draw and end the line, a Hedge Fund, a basic action draw, and install a card to new remote. That's definitely a little bit awkward, but presumably it's because you didn't have any cards you could install. To me, this probably suggests that there's agendas in HQ, and that's what Brandon acts on. Yeah, Foley, I think it's interesting that. So you were saying it's funny how big ice and small ice are so interchangeable to break that cheaper ice is actually better value. That's a dynamic we've actually seen a ton over the course of Netrunner's history. Faust being probably the pinnacle example of that. I think Endurance does some things very differently than Faust, obviously. Faust did not need to be banned when it rotated, and Endurance has to be banned. But yeah, small ice are actually almost always better on their face. If you're thinking, if I'm trying to keep the runner out, small ice is going to be my best bang for buck, especially when I'm playing quickly. It's only when I'm trying to close things out. Yeah, so it's just like, it's like this click to draw, then click to install in a new remote. Like, it's tough. Like, this is such a tell when playing against NEH that their hand is full of agendas, because you have to assume they can always install cards. And so a Beal gets ripped, Public Trail gets seen, a No Free Lunch is installed, and a click for a credit. And once the No Free Lunch was down, it was like, oh, okay, there's the Public Trail has no threat. So it is what it is. Okay, let's see. Maryland campaign, DBS fires, draws a cards, finally ices HQ, plays a hedge fund, ends at 11. Installs watch list on HQ, installs a leech, clicks for 2 credits. I do wonder if you can do some kind of pokey runs, if Brandon could have done some pokey runs. I don't remember why. One of the things I think that Brandon did that, or didn't do in this game that I felt like should have happened was trashing the DPS at some point. I think if you're going to trash any assets in startup against NEH, probably the only one you have to trash at some point is Daily Business Show. Ideally, you trash the Daily Business Show, then go get them to pop a Spin Doctor. Because DBS, like, this game goes on for 13 turns, I think, based on the 52 clicks gained. DBS probably contributes to 8 of those turns. I think this game was actually won very quickly by the runner. No offense, Sauce, just like the way the draw worked out. And DBS just meant that there was no agendas to find for a very long time. Because it's like, okay, cards get installed in new remotes. Steelskin Scarring, Fermenter, click for a credit. Like, there's technically, there are some threats, and we actually see them. And I think one of the mistakes Brandon made was not checking the remotes at all. I think a play that's underrated in startup, and there is a deck that breaks this exception. Which is the Mutually Assured Destruction NEH lists. But against every other asset spam list, especially in startup, you can go check a remote, click for 2 credits, as long as those cards don't have to be trashed, and you're totally fine. The card that may have let's see. The card that may have stopped Brandon from looking at that play pattern is Mumbad Virtual Tour, which recently rotated. And basically it's like, oh, hey, you know, if the runner accesses this, they have to trash it. The other one is Prysec, which again is another like standard staple and it is still legal. And if the runner accesses this naked, suddenly their whole turn changes a little bit. But neither of those are actually in startup, and so I think you can be pretty aggressive with checking remotes, but you don't actually have to trash them. Brandon was playing pretty carefully. I think he actually, the way to me that you lose against NEH decks that can't score, which is this type of NEH deck, or the way that those decks win is they spam out agendas, or they spam out a lot of cards, wait till the runner stops running, and then they put down agendas and never advance them off the board. And to me, the counterplay, like, there is counterplay to that, which is you set up your rig so they can't score behind ice, and then you check their remote so that they never actually get to go and do the score. And that's basically what happened here. Like, when you have a turn like this where it's like, well, 5 and 4 credits is probably fine. A Drago gets used, no free lunch gets used to beat the Drago. Penal Threading's been sitting in hand the whole time. And it's like this, what all the runner is doing here is installing protection, clicking for credits. Sauce keeps installing things, clicking for credits. Man, that's the second Steelskin Scar. I thought this was the turn where we got triple Reaper function. Oh, but there was 1 Steelskin in hand, so it was fine. Purging is always tricky. There's 2 Fermenters ticking up for like 4 or 5 turns at this point, so it's like a pretty reasonable purge, but it's a tough one. Stealing agendas off R&D, just trying to make sure that every turn we're ending with more credits than we started as the runner. DBS, install a card to draw, install some ice, install a card, install imp, run HQ, break the 2 net damage, take a tag, let the corp draw 2, which becomes 2 filtered. We're just going to clear that tag and then click for credits again. Was this the turn? Yeah, I think when this card gets double advanced, there's like a card that just becomes installed advanced to in server 10. And that was like the big, is this a check a Scion, or is this something that we have to actually respect? Durance comes down, go to the toll booth, and I think it ended up being a Draco, which makes sense. Spin didn't get used. I fortunately didn't tell Brandon what was in archives, I think, but that was a little... Or actually, no, I think I said, oh, I shouldn't have told you what was in archives. Let's see. Corp just is trying to build some kind of threat on the board, and the runner is just like, okay, I'm on 14 credits, I've got a no free lunch down, I've got my endurance down, let's apply a little bit of pressure so that the game ends at some point. But genuinely, I feel like the play I would have looked at doing here is just checking the remotes, making sure there was no threats on the board. We would have found Reaper functions, trashed 2 Reaper functions, and won the game, basically. And it is what it is. But yeah, there was a single steel skin that got hit. There was a permutation where you still where Brandon loses even holding a steel skin, where it's the last card in his hand, because he ends on 5. He takes 2, he takes 2, he has just the steel skin left, but it's pretty difficult to do, and this game basically just ends then. Okay, and then we have the final. Let's go to play, let's load the replay, and y'all can't see that, which is good for me. Okay, and after this I have to get some water because my voice is just going, apparently. Let's move my image so I'm not in the way of things again. And yeah, I can stand here because this is a PD game. Cool. This is a tricky hand because it's got 0 econ, 0 gas, and it's very hard to go aggressive. So I think he takes a mulligan here and ends up with basically the same hand, but without the send a message, which I think is fine. I think we lost this matchup earlier in the cut just based on results, so it's gonna be tight. But the start's pretty reasonable. What do I think about Roto in startup? I think it is justifiable because it hits fermenters sometimes. Like, I think it's oh, 1 second, I'm hearing an oven beep, so I'll be right back. Never mind, Aaron got it. I think Roto is totally fine. It's definitely expensive, right? It's not great because your econ is so stretches the corp, but hitting fermenters is a really good punish for early game. It's like if you could run Hagen, I think you would run Hagen. Also because it hits Matryoshkas pretty reasonably as well, right? So I don't mind the Roto in startup. I wouldn't want to play it in standard, but I think you can't play Drafter, so you're going to play Roto Turret. Yeah, I feel like the first match was closer than this one. This one felt like a blowout from what I remember. And actually, I think it's a blowout because of this res. Like, this is one of those reses where I was very confused. I was shocked that Brandon resed here. Because going to 1 credit just flatlines your own tempo completely. And I don't know that denying 2 credits is worth it. Because we can't go and do any aggressive scoring plays. And it's like, oh, a turn later, like, we just lose. Like, suddenly we don't have the money and the Matryoshka's down, and it's like, oh, okay, that's GG. Like, because it's like, okay, what's the alternative world where we didn't do that? So we have 37 cards. So there are, I don't remember the agenda suite in this deck. It is 8 agendas. Okay. There are 7 agendas in this 37 card deck, so just about 1 in 5, right? 1 in 5 would get the runner between 2 and 3 points. And if it's not the two, if we don't give them 2 or 3 points, we get to install Vitruvius, install Ansel, click for a credit, something like that. And if we know that Sauce is on Matryoshka because we saw them on Matryoshka in the previous round, honestly, even if this Matryoshka hadn't been installed, you can be pretty confident that it's not going to be install Matryoshka, host, make a run on server 1. Like, that's just not a realistic threat. And you do have, with 6 credits available, like, you'd be sort of okay. And Managarm Skunkworks does a bunch of work for you. And then we actually draw the hedge fund, which is like the most, it's like, oh, if we were on 4 credits here, we credit, hedge fund, maybe draw a card. So maybe not that wild. Maybe it's draw, credit, hedge fund. Which ends up being what our turn 4 is. But now we're a whole turn ahead. And so Sauce is a whole, like, it's like, oh, we could be a whole turn ahead of where we are. Sauce also drew super, super well here. Yeah, I like the idea of planogram as well. I don't remember what the influence spread in this deck looks like. Here, I think we finally go for the jam. Ice up everything. Is this the stupid reprise turn? Yeah. This turns a little bit nonsense. And, like, I'm glad Reprise did something. I think most of the time Reprise is still a bad card. Like, it happens to be a wildly good card in this specific board state. But yeah, actually, the better play here is to bounce this card in server 1. Because if this is an agenda, which it most likely is, bouncing it back a whole turn means that the corp can't score it, so it sets you back in a huge way. So it's like, yeah, it's actually more optimal to reprise this card, which is pretty funny. It means that you don't get to make a use out of this run, which would be the only other argument, but taking 2 points out of the corpse hand is much better. So, you know, it is what it is. Yeah, this is the only time in 100. Yeah, it's like, I feel bad because it's like, oh yeah, if people were watching the stream, which I imagine they were, people like tournaments and it was a good stream. It was very well run. This is probably the only game in 10 that Reprise has done anything. And results, and people will be like, oh cool, I should play Matryoshka, or I should play Reprise because it, you know, it won Sauce the game. It's like, nah, Sauce had this one in lock the whole time. I don't know how I feel about that double ice on R&D, but it's not the end. It's pretty reasonable, I think. These rolls for Sable are like the nicest rolls you could ask for, right? There, not a single one has been on the server you haven't wanted to run. This is where I start having some disagreements, I think. Where, to me, the line here is Void, Office, Advance. I guess you don't have enough credits. That's why you don't do this line, right? Oh, right. This was the disagreement I had. I actually think Void is more important in Server 1 than Off-World Office is. Because losing 2 points here doesn't actually lose you the game, but losing your Void absolutely does. So it's like this really weird corner case that, like, also if Pinhole Threading gets played, blows you out a little bit. But, like, Void is your win condition here against a Matryoshka Endurance runner, right? You just need one piece of ice, probably, and then Void Managarm, and that's how you're going to try and score out cards. And so having your off-world in the scoring remote when you don't really have a Seamless available I feels like the other thing. How much do you expect to spin with Elvigar around? Against PD, probably 0%. I think there's probably a good argument to make that PD should be running Elvigars. I think your agenda video lays out some cases where it would be where it probably is optimal. But yeah, I don't think it's a huge thing you have to respect. And here we trash the Managarm. And the agenda goes. Oh no, it doesn't, because Palisade works. But yeah, basically my thinking here is also, so on this turn, right? I think your two options are either, like, I think honestly, when I think about this turn, what could we do? We click to draw. The Nico campaign is pretty good. I almost wonder if you can hedge fund install a Nico in server 1. Your HQ is so open then. I wonder if it's actually hedge fund ice HQ. I think it actually might be is draw again here. I think it's actually draw again and hedge fund. That might actually be the play I like the most on this turn. Because all of you, the play you actually want to do is 2 cards in your remote. But Void in your remote doesn't make sense when you're going to have only 2 cards in hand. And you also don't have the clicks, really. Well, I guess you do, right? It's draw. Oh, right. It's draw, hedge fund. Yeah. We want to do 4 things on this turn, but 2 of them are really only good together. So we, like, want to do other things. And yeah, so it's like also here, right, on when the pinhole threading does come down, if there's 3 cards in this remote, it's a little bit harder for Sauce to pick the right one. And we'd actually be able to save ourselves money because we could res Palisade and Void. And potentially keep out Sauce. I guess not quite. You actually need to res everything. You think Brendan cracks spin if you pinhole? No. Like, I actually think you can actually just pinhole there as is. I think the reason to actually run the spin first, though, is so that you can't recur what you're about to trash with the pinhole threading, which is the important, is actually which is the reason I really like the play of taking it back. Like, I think most of the time, grabbing a free spin doctor is a trap because you're playing the pinhole threading to deal with something else. And you want to deal with this. Going into 0 here does absolutely suck. Now the Void goes in the remote. Oh, so maybe this is a different game than what I was thinking. But now, yeah, the Void gets trashed here, and we're pretty sad. And the game is basically over. Like, the game is just done now. Like, there's no way you're keeping... you're getting 5 more points without bleeding another 2. Brandon was not on Biotic. I think that's the thing. This deck is like... This deck is built as if you're playing standard PD. Oh no, it's on 1 Biotic. Excuse me. It is on 1 Biotic. I think if you're going to be on 1 Biotic, you should also be on some number of Elvigars as well. Like, I think it's probably you cut a Vitruvius, maybe? Or 2 Elvigars, though I'd have to go and look at the agenda point spread. But it's tough. There's not a lot of slots. Yeah, 1 Send the Message, 3 Vitruviuses, and an Elvigar. I think is also a not bad agenda suite. You maybe want... The problem is you actually only... I guess you have 4 Bioticable targets, and that's probably enough. Yeah, that seems pretty reasonable, honestly. I would love to see if you can just make a straight-up Fast Advance HB deck. But unsure. Spin goes down. Oh, this is the Void I was thinking about. Oh my goodness, cookies are arriving. It's the best. Yeah, I mean, PT does recur the biotic, but with what money? Like, I guess your money has to change a lot, right? You just spend all of your influence on, you spend 6 influence on Hansai reviews, government takeovers, or maybe planograms and government takeovers or something. Yeah, that's probably what you end up doing. And try that kind of fast advanced style. And then you do a little bit of glacier stuff as normal, because you always need to do some hybridization. And then twinning finally comes down, and it's just loses. Yeah, it's like, I think probably the trickiest turn here is this one. Nope. Well, it was this one. Is this turn 10? No, it's not turn 10. Turn 10, we're already lost. It's this turn 8. And I actually wonder if drawing twice, like we draw once, don't see a card we love, if it's like hedge fund and then draw here, or you put down the Nico campaign. It's one of those two, I think. Jupestad 3x might be enough to play ontological. I don't think so. I think if we're gonna build, I'll do something I haven't done literally this entire meta and build a startup corp deck. Which is okay. So let's try the agenda suite that we were just talking about, which is 1 send a message, 1 Elvigar, 3 Vitruvius, 1 Luminol, and 3 Offworld. Right? You could potentially cut 2 Offworlds for 2 Elvigars. Let's see. Want hedge funds. We probably want government subsidies and planograms. We want biotic labor. I might even take 2 because we want to see 1. Let's see. Do we want to do San City grids? I feel like we might be able to. Runners have no money, right? We can still run Managarm Skunks. Seamless. And Vlad Grid is also an option. Maybe that's better, actually. It's more influence, right? Oh no, it's probably the same. No, it's more influence. That's a problem. So it's more flexible, it is cheaper, but it's kind of trickier as well. I think I'd rather run 2 Sands. Planogram. We're gonna run Spin Doctors as our last 3 influence. Probably Nico campaigns. Because we want to draw, and now we need to have our ice, and we only have 10 ice slots right now. So I think we probably cut 1 seamless launch, 1 Managarm. That gives us 12 ice slots. Maybe we can cut it biotic as well. Okay, that gives us 13 ice slots. I think Bran is actually just like a king among ice right now. It's maybe a little expensive, so you probably only run 2. Do you want Maryland instead? I don't think so. I think you want the push of Nico, but maybe I'm wrong. It's not like 12 is no ice. or 13 to 0 ice. You could also play with these slots a little bit. Like maybe you don't play 3 government subsidies and you play some 1 influence ice. That's good. Magnet you definitely want 3 of. I think white space you're pretty happy to play as well. I actually like the look of Palisade. Like it seems fine. Nico maybe does just get trashed. It might just be that these sand sands are completely wrong as well. Okay. We want Ansels, I think. They're just like actually really good. Hey, have a good time with Arkham. Is there one Fluence Ice we really want to run? Is there an ice that lets us search for an agenda? Let's see. Man, it's so rough not having good ice available, right? We could run Roto Turret. I don't hate it. Okay. This might be what I would start with, and then you would adjust this to become better over time. I mean, maybe the Nikos become Marylands. Maybe you don't leave an influence point for God. I don't know. Seems like a tricky one. Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure you can afford all those Biroids either. For sure. Yeah, that's definitely a real problem. But anyway, I want to yet again go down the Shaper hole, because that hole was made for me. We're gonna go with a. I was gonna say a slightly more reasonable one, but I don't think it's reasonable. I also think I've built this before. Endurance rip. Let's see. What was I thinking? Oh, yes. Okay. I want to see if I can run a bunch of cybernetics in Padma. Which is tricky. Definitely tricky. It's like, oh, do I run Boomerang Q Loop? And then I have to actually go and run the cybernetics as well, right? We've got Awaken Plant, what's the other one? Awaken Plant is the multi-access. Probably also want the draw one. The need chip. Okay. Cool. And so then we also run Hippocampic Mechanocytes. You might even run 2. And then we're going to... What's the influence on Panleaf? Not letting us have any fun. Not letting us have any fun at all. Ugh. Okay, well, that's a bummer. I guess you run a second Prognostic Q Loop. We run a Bachelor Synth Gland. Or 2, maybe. We wanted a deep dive. Actually, no. We cut... I think... Yeah, Panweave would be nice, but it's 4 influence. We could cut the prognostic Q loops for a Panweave. And I might also go really spicy and run a buffer drive. So that all of this damage we're doing to ourselves is a little less painful. This is unique. That's gonna be annoying. Okay. So we've got Deep Dive, we've got Into the Depths, we've got Dirty Laundry. Let's see. We've got a Pinhole Threading as a one of. We need some diesels. Clearly we're playing Tremolo. No, we're not playing this in startup. We're playing this in standard. I can't bring myself. Yeah, I think it's Dr. Nuka because we have no money in the deck right now, right? We definitely want daily casts. Can maybe get away with 2 SMCs. I'm gonna run a Tremolo, a Echelon, and a do we run Hyperbaric? I have not played with Hyperbaric myself. I've only dunked on it as a bad card. Okay, how many of these do we get credit discounts from? Very few, if any. Okay. If we're running SMC, then Overclock seems like a must include. I think Creative Commission's a more must include. So right now we're winning off of deep dives. And just being annoying. Overclock as a hyperbaric synergy I could believe. Beth makes sense to me. Do I want to play Maker's Eyes? The trouble I have with the Simulchip is I don't think it does anything for us most of the time. Oh, a misdirection. Thank you. The card I always forget in my first draft. We could run a Parisia as well. Three, 3. So we could run a rigging up, probably. Probably just one, though. Genuinely, we're probably charging up this Hippocampic Mechanocytes quite a bit. I'm trying to think what other charge effects we could have. Yeah, Buffer Drive I think is going to be my do I run the single DZMZ? Do I run a Pantograph instead? We can run one Pantograph so that we can do a rig of... No, we don't need to run a console at all here. We've got enough other hardware, I think. No, I don't think Mind's Eye does that much for us, honestly. We could Spark. We could cut the SMCs, the Flux, and we could Spark. We'd probably have to cut everything. Yeah, I just don't see a point of running a DZMZ when maximum value I get off of it is 3 credits. right? I'm spending a card and 2 credits to get 3 credits of value maximum. I just don't see how that becomes particularly good. In a world where we start putting bigger things in, I think it's an option, or more things in. But, like, it's funny, like, I would run an Akamatsu Mem chip, maybe, but I'm not going to run a DZMZ, it's too expensive. I honestly want to think about running, like, Maker's Eyes or something. There's probably more money I need to bring in first, though. But there's not a lot of money. Like, I could actually do... oh, telework is fine. Yeah, I don't think there's that many events we want to play, but maybe 2... Well, the Anacam also has the synergy of when we knock events out of our hand on ourselves, we're kind of okay. Maybe, actually, the reason for our simul chips is always going to be awkward because we don't have programs we want to trash. T400 Memory Diamond as our console is fine, too. We could do, like, 2 environmental testings and a T400. Because we're going to be doing 1, 2... we're only doing 3 core damage to ourselves. Yeah, I think probably Anacam is better, though. I think you're right. Really what we do is we run Anacam. Okay, we're going to cut the pan weave, I think, for the ghost tongue. And run 2 Maker's Eyes. And we'll cut a deep dive, probably. And put the pinhole threading in. We could cut the buffer drive too, maybe. I don't know. This is going to go badly, but I don't feel like it's going to go terribly. DJ Steve instead of pinhole. Yep. Yep. Oh, definitely like that. I don't know, this deck seems like it's going to be fun. I don't know if it's going to be good, but it's going to be fun. I hope. What do I call this? Captain to the core. We aren't set up for a mad dash include, huh? I don't think we are. It's like Maker's Eye. I guess we could go for like a big Maker's Eye, Wake Implant, Turbo Dive. But not sure. Nope, I already had it as a tap. Okay. Captain to the core. Okay. I should reload. Actually, you know what? We're gonna quit Firefox for a second. Reload Firefox. So that hopefully I get card show up. Okay. Live. Twitch, YouTube. We're going to set up as the runner. We're going to save the replay. We're going to create. And yes, I am intentionally ignoring the suggestion to go ISIS string. But it's not like a terrible idea. I just don't want it. But it might be easier for the deck than Mad Dash is, for example. I do wish we had the influence to run Steelskin Scarrings. Those would be very nice to run in this deck, but I guess Anakam's Anakam's a pretty decent substitute. So. Yeah, I probably should shout this out every stream, but if you're enjoying this music, it is all from the 3 different albums that Trip Mirror put out that are all named after Netrunner songs. So this one... Which one is this one? I actually can't tell. Oh, this one's called Focus Group. Good time. I actually haven't heard any of them tonight because my headphones have been off because I showered right before going live. Yeah, they're all card names. I think his first album had like Biofrost Array on it, which is a deep cut. Biofrost Array is definitely one of those made for draft cards. Oh, that's super cool. I should grab that album. I don't have the 4th one yet. Man, I really want to get my Aesop's Tables 2.0 out in live because there's so many other Netrunner projects I want to do, and they're just hard to put in when I've got this other stuff. When you include Q-Loop at the start of the build, what were you aiming to install with them? Just all my hardwares. I was just looking for efficiency on the hardware. And so, like, there's probably a pretty reasonable argument to go back to them. But, we're gonna keep this hand. Yeah, it was actually, so the other thing was like, oh, Q-Loop for Boomerang in the end game is really good, regardless of what faction you're playing. That was the other part of the idea. So if you're lying, you can find it on Bandcamp under the name Trip, T-R-I-P-P, space Mirror. Cool, that I'm happy with. Oh, of course. Okay, of course. Of course. A horse is a horse, of course, of course. Plus the Q-Loop buffer drive synergy, half joke. Oh, I hadn't thought about that. Yeah, putting a program or a hardware that you want back on top. This might be like install an Anacam and start poking around. But... okay, we'll have to track if this Ghost Tongue is better than the prepaid voice pad. So far, it has not. Okay. So we can install this Zenith chip. To draw a card. Cool. And then we'll click for a credit. I should have calculated how much damage we're doing to ourselves over the course of the game. And that would maybe be the argument for a buffer drive, though I think DJ Steve probably gives us back as many cards as buffer drive would. Let's see. Excuse me, got a little bit of herbs as I finish off these raspberries. Okay. So, I'm sort of assuming my opponent's a punitive deck. For no particular reason. Not like playing 2 hedge funds and icing all centrals is a real tell. But the fact that we're not making any kind of scoring remote is a little suggestive. So I actually think I might just like sit back, do something like this. Next turn might be draw, install Boomerang on HQ, make a run. Big Deal is definitely an option. That's a good point. Okay. So I think it's going to go draw, install the Boomerang, run server 1. Is this going to be an Anansi and we die? No, we don't die to Anansi. We can break everything but the draw a card. Okay, is this going to be Oboe then? Oh, and Geofront. Okay, cool. We'll click for a credit then. Yeah, well, not having this boomerang on the remote is less than ideal, I guess. Okay, let's draw a card here. Nuka's pretty good. I think we Nuka up. And install a Hippocampic. Cool. There we go. The Oboe. Cool. Let's see. Let's kind of want to laundry this remote just to see what my opponent's going to do on it. I also want to get this boomerang back in my deck is what I really want. I maybe should have installed this hyperbaric first, because if I lose this hyperbaric, I have no effective way of recurring it. I think I'm actually okay with overdrawing a bit here. That's good. Okay, I think I can discard... What do I discard here? Honestly, maybe Nuka. I might have drawn all the cards I need to for now. Yeah, Big Deal is definitely a good shout, though. Okay, so my turn is something like Echelon, DJ... Run server 1, play creative commission, probably. Maybe I should be running R&D here once I get the echelon down, because I'll have 16 credits to let me charge up the hyperbaric and eventually charge up the Campic. I think I run R&D, charge this. I just need to get to strength 6, I believe, to deal with DNA tracker. But probably strength 3 gets me far enough for now. Okay, so we're going to match the strength of Anansi for 6 and then break it for 9. That's a real bummer. Okay, so this is a Keeling deck. I don't actually want to trash it here, I think. I think I would rather go DJ Fenris for Steve, Creative Commission to draw a card, and we get a Creative Commission. Let's go. Okay. I definitely need my third breaker here so I can break Anansi for 5. And we're a little short on tutoring, but this is a good hand to install my Basilar on, potentially. Let's run yeah, I think we can run HQ here. Yeah, this Anansi does kind of turn off our ID ability, which is a bummer. Oh, wow. Okay. You got me. I guess we're not firing a Basilar today. I sort of didn't think this was a Regenesis. It was definitely an option, but I wasn't super... It didn't feel right for whatever reason. Okay, well, we're going to lose our whole hand and we'll bring back 2 sure gambles, I guess. And then we're going to probably run server 1. Maybe we'll run archives instead. We'll just chuck our entire hand here. I'm not going to probably pay to draw cards, because if I draw the Tremolo, it becomes very dicey for me. Yeah, these are well-placed Anansi's. This is what Anansi always does. They have snare money, but I'm just not going to respect the snare. That's just how we're going to play. Oh, I actually do respect the snare anyway. Sick. Do I actually want 2 Nukas instead? I probably want 2 Nukas instead. I think I want the real card draw here. Okay, we access the 3rd Anansi. Okay, our opponent's just seen all the Anansis. So we die to Urtica, but we don't if I go draw. Now we can run server 1, steal the oboe. And the last click will just creative commission. And the next turn looks a little bit, I don't know exactly what it looks like, but... Waiting on this boomerang. Okay. What you got for me in this remote? Gonna be something, right? Could be a lot of things. Could be a lot of things. Okay, NGO front makes sense, kind of. That's a bummer for sure. It's gonna be a void, maybe? Void makes the most sense to me. Have we seen any influence yet? We have not. Warroid Tracker, okay. Oh, because this is a Keeling deck. This is not rezzed, though. So we will go and trash this now. And the last click, we will Creative Commission. Gain 5. Next turn is probably install Nuka, click Nuka, draw a card, Creative Commission. Maybe we run Archives. Once I get Tremolo, running HQ for 5 is very expensive. I wonder if this deck could do something that's cute to make a high-powered hyperbaric actually sort of part of a win condition or something. Or maybe this is a deck that wants... what do you call it? What's the card I'm thinking of? Turbine. This could be a decent Turbine deck because we don't have a lot of other uses for our MU. We're just trying to access stuff kind of efficiently. We know the 3rd Anansi's in hand, so I don't need to be doing the math on what happens when they res the Anansi on me here. If this is the 3rd NGO front, opponent's just outskilling me. So I guess I'm not investing any resources yet, so we're kind of okay. Alright, I think my hair is sufficiently dry. Though I don't think I'm actually paired up, so hopefully the audio's been okay. Oh, it's just quite quiet. Or at least very quiet to me. Oh, it's an anemone. Oh, okay, so this is probably oboe. Hey, let's go. I actually want to use the boomerang here. We will steal the oboe, shuffle the boomerang back in the stack, and then we will emergency Nuka, I think, so that we don't die to a single punitive. It is a little sad to not be able to play the Nuka for charge value, but honestly, we're getting 0 value out of charge this game, so I'll take what I can get. Let's see. Yeah, this is not a corp I was expecting to see, and it's glaciered up quite well against me. Okay, Spin Doctor in the remote I'm pretty happy about. We're 22 cards in, only 6 points out, so We can definitely make a poke at Archives at some point. This is a neat chip. Probably has drawn us negative cards at this point, but that's okay. It's still part of the flavor. We actually, if we draw, we've got 3 cybernetics out, so we just need to draw our card, right? Let's see. So this can't be an Anansi. Yeah, the slow money from reality, restoring humanity can be a real deal. So I don't mind the dirty laundry here. Ooh. Oh, okay. Yeah, so we're going to place 2 power counters, break the code gate subroutine, and then we're going to breach the server. Okay. Oh, interesting. Okay. So these deep dives actually become quite fun now, or into the depths, excuse me. Because now I can grab my tremolo and make credits off of grabbing the tremolo, which is pretty cool. I honestly might click for a credit here, I think. I don't think I want to use these into the depths just yet. I think I want M31345 to make some aggressive plays first. So I have some leverage to counter play against. My 2 deep dives are gone. Oh no, only 1 is gone. Okay. So potential. Oh, okay. Celebrity Gifts is a big one. This card, I feel like, it's such a weird one. It's like it's a ton of money, but its cost is huge. Nancy, Anemone, Bathonomus, Spin Doctor, and Thimble Rig. Okay, so I should make use of my runs this turn. It doesn't look like they're actually running any barriers. Which is interesting. But I'm now getting into Archives for 1 credit, and when I get Echelon to 3 strength, it'll break. Well, it won't even break Anansi that well, but you know, it is what it is. So into the depths on Archives here. We'll fully break the mind game. I actually want my Into the Depths to trigger before my Zenith chip. I want to install a program from my stack, which is going to be Tremolo. Beth is great here. I think it's going to be install Beth. We're going to Into the Depths Archives again, just to gain net 3 credits, which isn't great, honestly. Actually, it probably would have been better. Actually, mind if I undo click? Okay. I think it's actually better to go for R&D here, because we can afford to. Oh, but now we don't get the Steve counter, which is part of the power here, but whatever. This is effectively a 1 credit run on R&D, which seems okay. Oh, I'm a credit short. Oh, I'm a dummy. I'm a complete fool. Thought it was 5 to break, not 6. Okay. What we'll do is we'll click for a credit, and then we will make this play. It's not good, but especially with only 6 cards left in the stack. Okay, so this is a -2 credit run, which is not great. Oh wow, our Spin Doctor. I guess it makes some sense to Spin Doctor right away here. because we know that R&D is probably, or like has 12 points in it. I think I'm actually okay with my opponent drawing an NGO front here. Do we need hand size? I think hand size makes stealing oboes slightly easier. Now, do we actually need it? No. Definitely not. But I also don't think that charging a hyperbaric does anything here. I don't think they're actually on DNA trackers. I think their ice is pretty expensive as is. But yeah, that last run didn't really make any sense. Cost us way more than it got us. This is definitely a deck that wants turbines. If we're going to have 2 extra MU here, running a single turbine seems worth it. I think that's going to be the Bathynomus on Archives. They haven't clicked to draw, so I still think this first card they're going to install is going to be an NGO front. What econ do I have? Do I have daily casts? Not really. Wow, I've taken a lot of net damage this game. That's a bit rough. Steve, you gotta do stuff for me. Double protective archives is interesting. Okay. Beautiful. Oh, I forgot there's still a buffer drive in this deck for some reason. Beth gave me a click. Totally fine with. Well, it can't actually big deal yet. They now have NGO front, 2 ice, and an unknown card. Okay, they're doing lots of drawing now. 3 new cards have entered the grip. I could actually think about, because they're sitting on 17, letting this, drawing my last 3 cards, sitting on everything, making the run on HQ as my last click, and then going for deep dives. I actually think that might be a reasonable out for me. Credit. Do I even install this buffer drive? I think it's too late for the buffer drive, right? And I don't need most of these other cards. I just am okay with discarding 2 cards here. I thought I had some econ left in my deck, and I just don't. So it goes, right? So the thing is, I need 12 credits just to get through the 2 res pieces of ice. There's a Bathynomus, which is going to be another 4 credits to get through. Ugh. That's also tough. And I can't go better than -2 credits on, or -1 credit on an Anansi. Overwriting. 17 credits. Could be stuff in archives. Probably not. I feel like it's click for credits a bunch. Run server 1. Okay. We'll match fully break Anansi. We've got 7 credits, so we're probably still in. I guess just pretend the buffer drive is a turbine. Yeah, Palangi does seem like it's wanted here. Oh my goodness, I got incredibly red here. This would be 4 credits, so it would be all my money to access an NGO front here. Oof. Yeah, Palongi definitely seems like it's wanted, and then you can probably fit the simul chip in as well. Oh, we steal a bacterial. And we have a 6-card hand size, so punitive is not a real threat to us here. That's super nice. Okay, so now I just need to click for credits till I get to... I need to spend 6 breaking the Anansi and have 4 left after. So I need to click to 10 credits, which will take me 3 turns, because my opponent's down to 6 now. And we'll end at 9. Oh, so let's see if a turn off. Oh no, they're going to go up to 10, so I'm going to draw and not get anything. Bacterial programming really should say draw 7 cards. I have enough, like, I'm all set, right? I'm gonna win the game on the next agenda I steal, provided I don't lose too many cards before then. Oh, 2 turns, because Daily Cast is ticking. Yes, I forgot I have the Daily Cast installed. Okay, so I could have 2 more credits here if I had done the smart thing and charged my Hyperbaric, though arguably I couldn't have the 6 cards in hand, so who's to say which is better? I definitely needed both of these cards giving me core damage to make a good deck, right? That was needed. Oh, and I even have a click left. Cool. That gets us even closer. We'll start our turn on... Double Punitive just to protect oboes. That would be rough, because then I would have to run through HQ every other turn to get back cards one at a time. That would be pretty funny. On say review. Punitive. I think you called it, Lava. I think it's going to be double punitive out of spite. Or maybe just single punitive does it. That's fine too. Okay. So... we're gonna just keep clicking for credits. Run through the Anansi so you get back up to 4 cards in hand. And Anansi is a beast. I wonder if this deck could run Leech instead of Turbine. So that you at least kind of have some synergy with the Zenith chip, the by far most out there card in this whole list, I think. Enemy simulation reset. Oh no. What is my opponent doing? I'm going to say that's NGO front. I also don't think I have a lot of options for that to be anything but NGO front. Because it cost me 6, 9 to break it, plus another 6. I need to be at 15 to threaten that remote, realistically, if it is an oboe. If it is an oboe, though, I actually think I have a hard time losing if this is the oboe. Well, I think it's actually the NGO front. Because the NGO front's safer, and people like safe plays. Oh, I was wrong. Oh, it's a gene splicer. Okay. Well, that's a fun way to get your last point. So I think we're going to run HQ. Yeah, a Palongi would be really nice, honestly. Palongi's such a good card. Okay. Doesn't particularly matter. I'm not playing these cards. There's a world where I try and make some big plays. But I don't... Shouldn't HQ run be last? Why should it be last there, Sadstug? On my deep dive turn, it definitely will be. Yeah, we're just... This run was just to account for oboe. I need to get way more credits than I currently have. I forget... Oh, you know what? Let's just go and look at what their celebrity gift was so that we can see all the ice. Anansi, Anemone, Bathynomus, Spin Doctor, and Thimble Rig. So, yeah, it's gonna... When we go for the deep dive, it's gonna be run, run, run. I don't think I have to run until they install Advance, right? Maybe they're doing a weird agenda suite that includes Regenesis and Gene Splicer. There's part of me that's like, could I... Like... Into the... It's tricky. I think I take 4 this turn. It's like, I could take 3 this turn, go down 3. No. So Bathynomus cost me 4. Everything else cost me 1, so that's 5. Then it's 6, 12, or, yeah. Okay, so it's 5 to get into Archives, 12 to get in everywhere else, 17. Yeah, so I need to click for credits here. I probably need to click for credits for another 2 turns. If my opponent has Regenesis, they have Regenesis, but... okay, that probably is an enemy in Server 1. I think you guys are right. So... I have to actually go a little bit early here, because I just lose. But I don't need to worry about having the cards in hand, so I can actually let the Anansi fire one of the Anansi's fire. Assuming that one of these isn't also an enemy. Which is possible. Maybe even probable. So I think we have a deep dive line here. And this is the line I'm going for. So we're going to run Archives, run R&D, run HQ, get back the deep dive as our last action, and play it. It would have been nicer if our opponent was ended their turn at more than 15 credits for me. I would have much appreciated it. But I think the deep dive is guaranteed here. Assuming this is an oboe. If this is actually the bacterial, then the last bacterial would have to be in HQ, and we miss. Wonder if buffer drive for 2 deep dives is better than trying to steal the oboe. I think DJ's... I don't think so. Oh wow, they don't res the other card. Okay. Now we run R&D. We're going to charge... Well, now we'll charge the Hippocampic. Okay, an enemy comes in. Makes sense. We will... Oh, so now we do have to fully break, right? Well, we have the... I'm clicking on the wrong things. Oh, I'm a credit short. Oh. I can't let either Anansi fire. Oh, 1 credit short. Brutal. Brutal. Oof. I only need 1 credit to play deep dive, but I'm I'm short that. Man, that's... You think they dumped on the agenda in archives? It's probably my only out, right? They did not dump the agenda in archives. I'm not sure what their last card was. GG. Okay. Oh, it was tank the enemy sub. Oh, you guys got it. Yep, that's the line. Yep, you just tank the enemy sub. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's me being a dummy. Let's put a turbine in and a Palangi in, and we'll find some cuts. I think Zenith is tricky. 2, 3, 4 cybernetics is probably enough. Let's see. Is there another cybernetic? Do we just run a second ghost tongue? Oh no, Zenith chip is 2. Okay, so if we want to... It's probably we cut the flux, because we actually don't have that many real charge targets. I liked every other card. The boomerangs were definitely a bit awkward. So we wanted a turbine and a Palangi probably, and maybe a simul chip. Have a good night, Sauce. Oh, and of course I navigated away, deleting all my edits. Okay. So we'll put in a no, I think Palangi is actually how you leverage some stuff here. Turbine and a simul chip. Okay. So now we need to cut 2 cards. One of them is going to be... what was the earlier cuts? Did we just cut SMC entirely? With 2 boomerangs? And 3 into the depths? Probably not. Probably not. The hippocampics are pretty important. There's not a card here I don't want. Or it's just too memey. Like, I could cut the buffer drive, right? I think it's too expensive for what it does. Yeah. Though I would want to spend that influence again, right? So it's like... I could cut the Zenith ship for another thing, but... 1x stim hack. Yeah. Yeah. That's a good call. Double Ghost Tongue is an option. Buzzsaw. We're running Hyperbaric. So Buzzsaw seems a bit silly. If we could upgrade our killer for 1. Actually, do we just run Mimic? We just run Mimic Turbine? Because I don't think... what 6 strength sentries are out there? And for the sake of this conversation, pretend that Sandberg doesn't exist. Trebuchet? Oh. Fuck, that's a good one. Stavka, that's a good one. No. Man, Echelon sucks, though. Well, wait, hold on. No. We can do this. We can actually do this because we saved Palangi for those. We Palangi to deal with those. Okay, we'll play 46 card Captain Padma. Okay. And that should be us in a good spot. Yeah, the Archer disrespect for real, though. Oh boy, I am tired. This might be a shorter stream tonight. Apologies, everyone. This might be the last game. But I am hoping to get Aesop's tables out soon, and then have a little bit more energy for other projects. Though honestly, the next project is probably Dan Brago. Okay, that's a fun Smurf. It's probably revising the organized play policies, and there's gonna be a big focus on readability over rules changes. Though I don't think you do one without the other. And we're going to be stealing pretty liberally from the MTG or policies because they've been doing it for a long time. They know what they're doing, by and large. There's a couple differences because our game has some differences, but hidden information's much more important. I don't think Stavka is Archer 2.0. I think it's got some real downsides compared to Archer. It's got some upsides too, right? No disagreement there. But not ending the run's a huge deal. It's a huge deal. So, I don't know. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Hopefully scare them off of leaving. SSO Industries. Okay. This hand's probably not a keeper. It's hard to get going off of this hand. Man, if Into the Depths was like Bravado in some way, that would be so nice. Oh, this hand slaps, though. I think it's like Dirty Laundry, Bachelor, hope we have the Creative Commission still. Whoa, Icing Archives turn 1. Oh, well, that's pretty reasonable then. Okay. Yes, we kept the Creative Commission. Let's go. And we have the Diesel. Fun player Duck Duck. Alright, Mr. Goose. What are we going to do? Yep, that's going to be... Okay. Ooh, nice. 1 meat damage. Fantastic. So we're gonna just... Oh, because I already played the Diesel. Lol. Okay. Are there any triple advanced ice that end the run, or can I go... Can I go draw... Boomerang... Boredom, Mausolus, Colossus, Eros, Arquette. Svingo is the one that's really annoying. This is an Ice Wall, though. And then I draw and draw. Hope I don't die to Punitive, which I very well might, because I'm dead to Punitive here. For 8 credits, yeah. Okay, well, we play on. Cool. Did I lose an important card? No, just an SMC. Draw, Barbaric, Good Commission. Probably a Spin Doctor in server 2. Yeah, my thinking was, can I Into the Depths server 1, but I just didn't quite have the cards in hand or the card draw. So I installed Basilar Synthgland on turn 1. It cost me 2 cards and a click, giving me back 4 clicks now. Okay, great. Alright, we're gonna wall to wall. We are gonna wall to wall. We're playing all the advanceable ice. Gonna go on HQ? No, gonna go on... Oh, this ice wall is gonna be annoying for our Tremolo. That's funny. Oh, Ice and Archives is also not nice for me. Trying to get value out of this dirty laundry. Oh, but maybe it's okay. Okay, draw, gamble, laundry server 3. Is this gonna also be a Spin Doctor? It is. Okay, well, you win some, you lose some. Oh. Okay. No, you can keep that. No pop, apparently. I'm also not trashing, so something very... We're just doing all sorts of stuff. Yeah, they lost the opportunity to deny me 3 credits. This is definitely awkward in that I have no way of getting my breakers down right now, which is quite silly. And I have a very hard time running aggressively here. Yeah, they're denying me 5, you're right. They're not really denying me 3, they're denying me 5 because I've already invested. The Zenith chip is probably not worth installing here. I guess I have a Simul chip, so I can make the run on R&D if I have to. No killer one time. Colossus is totally a reasonable include here. Okay, and there it is. Oof, that's rough. I wonder if I should have jacked out there, but so it goes. Houseless on top. Move tag, move tag. Reinstall daily casts. Alright, so I'm gonna have to, like, hold my SMC for a long time. Fortunately, my opponent's not moving too quickly either. And this is maybe a turn where I could do Into the Depths now that, like, my board's less vulnerable again. What are we burning for Simulchip? A Palangi or an SMC? Oaktown Reno. Okay. So there's probably an Afshar in HQ as I think about it. So I think it's probably better to Into the Depths archives here. Oh, I'm running Mimic, aren't I? Yeah, that's going to be a problem. Okay, Spin Doctor gets popped. Yeah. I did find the 6th Strength Sentry. Okay. Interesting. We'll hit the Nuka button. And then we will run HQ as our last click. Hit me with that Ice Wall. Trick of Light makes sense. Yeah. Okay. Oh, I should have Into the Depths there. Because now I'm losing my window to do it. A Boomer would be a very nice top deck, yep. Yeah, I definitely should have Into the Depths, and I've basically just blown my window to do so. Okay. Very, very, very greedy, but not technically wrong in this situation. Okay, so this is probably Mouseless. So I think I'm okay to run R&D, charge Nuka, and try and get them to res. Cool. As long as they don't hit my Into the Depths, I'm quite happy here. Now we can Into the Depths HQ. Because I think if they had an Ice Wall, they would have used it. So we're going to... let's see. Install a program from our stack. It's going to be... I mean, it's got to be Tremolo. I guess then we gain 4. Then we run server 1. So I would have jacked out. Yeah, they shouldn't have rezzed the Mouseless, I think. But it's not, like, crazy to do so, because I can jack out before I encounter the Colossus. Okay. So this is going to cost me not that much in the scheme of things. Right? This cost me 4, 5. Yeah, so I'm paying 3. I'm paying 8 to steal 2 points. And I click for some credit. I clear a tag and click for some credits. So yeah, the court probably should have been fine with me just charging my Dr. Nuka. I think the theory is at some point I might put down a card they care about charging. Or like they care about me charging. Now the fact that we don't is maybe a condemnation of the whole concept of running this in Padma rather than any other shaper, right? Rather than running this in lat or something. But all right, just waiting to get through. Let's just make sure I have it disconnected. Looks like I'm still good to the stream. Cool. A little quiet tonight, but I realize I'm also a little quiet tonight, so it's not a huge deal either way. All right, there we are. We'll remove a tag, and then we will click for a credit, and we should be safe to kills. Okay, another Oaktown comes down. There is actually Wake in the deck, right? But we just haven't seen it. Can I go Beth, Zenit, run HQ? Looks like I can get away with it. What happens if an Afshar gets rezzed? Well, it's not going to. Okay, reduce service. Sure. Do I install this Simmel chip? Yeah, I need to install it at some point. I don't mind. My opponent is being, I'm going to say, a typical, why didn't we just win? Did I have the credits to just win? I did have the credits to just win, didn't I? Yeah, I did. You're right. Yeah, it was just boomerang here, run here for 3 credits. Yeah. Oh. I'm tired. Have I mentioned that a million times already? Okay. Maybe that explains why there's not that many people. No, but thank you all for watching. It's good to have, like, I don't know. You're just not here for good Netrunner play tonight, but that's okay. Credit. Reddit, and we just ditch the deep dive. Want to ditch the deep dive. Maybe I ditch the dirty laundry. Okay, so I shouldn't have ditched that K2CP turbine because I'm just being quite silly. Alright, so priority construction is, as there's close place operations, spend a click, install a piece of ice from HQ on a remote server, ignoring all costs, and then place 3. Okay. Yeah, ditching that turbine was like, woof, what a play. Yeah, the turbine definitely represents more money than the laundry does. And I don't have a way to get both back. Let's see. So I think my line looks something like putting this boomerang on the Colossus and clicking for a bunch of credits. Because what I have is deep dive. And this is just the cheapest way for me to get in. Oh wow, I assume that was a spin doctor. That's wild. I mean, this is exploiting the It's true, but I'd rather... Oh, I guess you're right. Once again, I'm just playing as the dumbest monkey tonight. Okay. Oh, but I have all the programs now. So this SMC doesn't... Oh, no, I can get the Palanque. Which actually isn't useless either, right? I could maybe... It might even be better to get the turbine. Leave. For that. We're not playing the Ghost Tongue at this point. Okay. HQ's getting real big. I'm trying to think if there's any way I can sneak both of these cards back into play, both the Hyperbaric and the Turbine. I think the answer is no. Oof. You're guessing Chrysium, which damage? I'm guessing it's the reduced service, but let's see. We also have Maker's Eyes in the deck. We have a Maker's Eye. I also need to get that art changed. I just can't. That's like, that was a bold choice by whoever made that art design choice, but it was something else. Okay, so HQ's got to be flooded here, right? Like that's what this play is saying. Maybe we just run HQ, right? Without the Pelongi down, I'm a little bit worried about it. Okay, we're just gonna click for credits. Probably not getting wake value out of a triple stacked HQ. I think this is a reasonable turn to like install Pelongi, run HQ, click 1. And we just hope that we see a lot of barriers, right? Because if we see like barrier, 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 which is the ideal, then I can actually pull back Turbine instead. Okay, so I'm breaking this for 2 and breaking this for 4. Breaking this for 2. So I think it's Pelongi. Run HQ. Get a 6-click turn. Not bad, not bad. Okay. Fully break the ice wall. Okay, Mausolus. Can we let this Mausolus fire? I think we can. We'll fully break the border control. Yeah, there's no real way for me to cheat this in. Cheat these cards in. I can maybe hope my opponent makes a mistake at some point. Yes, let's choose 2 cards in the heap. Let's just go gamble. Gamble. Okay, and never mind, we win. Because, yeah, our opponent was very flooded. Presumably. So, you know, you plan meticulously and then it doesn't matter. So this is the fun board state where we could kickflip, get a Turbine in for 1 credit, run Archives for free, run R&D for 2 credits, and then deep dive. So like this is clearly a meme, but I mean, probably what this says is Turbine's a really good card, right? Turbine lets us do deep dives in a really powerful way while still applying pressure in the early game. And you just swap out all these breakers for better breakers. I think probably Shapers should be leaning more on Pelongi, maybe on Angolo, maybe Turbine and Golo is just like lit as hell. And that's how you play Shaper Power these days. So like, let's make a slightly more serious Shaper deck, and we're gonna call it a night after we finish building that. So we're gonna go standard, we're gonna go Shaper. Okay, I'm gonna call it serious, and then I'm gonna play it out of Dow. And you guys can meme on me for that. But I think having the fewest cards possible is pretty reasonable as well. So we can do Ngolo. I almost wonder if you just run 2 Ngolos, so you just see it early, and 2 SMCs. You run Turbine. I think you probably only run 1 Turbine. You run a Paperclip. And maybe you do run an Echelon. I could see that being fine. I could also see Mimic actually being correct here, because I don't think you have a ton of influence you need to spend. So now we want tech cards, right? We want probably Caldera to deal with PE. We probably want Pinhole Threadings to deal with PE. We want Creative Commissions to deal with having no money. We want Misdirections. Fermenter, Clot, yep. I don't see anyone playing... Oh no, what was I about to say? Yeah, I think it's... Maybe this is your influence suite. So maybe we cut the Caldera and go for a DJ. I could see that being fine. That's probably slightly better, right? This is a good Simulchip deck because now we're running Fermenters. And you can cheat these cards into play quite easily. I could almost see running a Palangi on top of all this stuff. We probably want 1 MU, which could be the Anacam. Do we want Hyperbaric? Or, what could we do? I think Into the Depths is quite solid in a Ngolo list. We're at 18 events. And then I feel like you need 2 deep dives. Do you cut a Simulchip? It's probably a little light on money. But I suspect DJ Fenris helps out a lot for that. And then you try and do some Simulchip cheats. Like, you've got 2 Simulchips, so you actually have 3 Simulchips. Yeah, this seems not the worst. You could probably cut an Ngolo for more econ cards. Like a telework contract. You could maybe slap in a Maker's Eye. But maybe I'll mark this for next stream. Just try and run people down with this. But yeah, seems like a fun idea. And like, honestly, this deck against janky stuff felt pretty fine. I'm sure it feels terrible against sports, but I don't know. I had a decent time with it. I hope y'all had a good time watching. It was a lot of fun, and you should play in or watch the accelerated meta test when you can. That's going to be this weekend. I will not be, I think, doing almost anything associated with it day of, but putting in some work ahead of time for it, and people should check that out. Though honestly, if you're watching the stream, it's probably a bad time for you. And then next week, I'll try and break down both accelerated meta tests. So claim deck lists if you can, and I will see y'all next week. Bye.